Hey everyone, Mike Thornton here. On today's video, I want to talk about unleashing profit in 2022. I read a book last year that transformed the way that I run my business, and I want to share some of those principles with you today so that you can maximize the profit within your business or even use the same principles to run a more profitable ship at home within your own budget. So let's get to it. All right, so we're back with the whiteboard today. And the book I was referencing earlier is Profit First by Mike Michalowicz. Sorry, Mike, if I'm butchering your name, but you wrote a really great book, so hopefully it's even. But here are just a few concepts I want to take you through. This was a book I read last year. It really transformed the way I set up my business. There's some really great tactical ideas in this book that are easily implemented, and when so, I think it will be really a game changer for you. And I want to encourage you too, if you're not a business owner, many of these concepts translate to your household in the way that you run your personal budget as well. So stay tuned. So the first thing I want you to look at is maybe giving you a reason why this is important. So I read a study recently that 75% of small businesses have less than 1 month, basically, emergency fund on hand. So if there was to be a disruption that lasted a few weeks, that could sink 75% of the small businesses out there, which is incredible. So this relates to that comment here. This is showing income versus cost for a business. The black line there is your income. The green line are your costs. Hopefully over time, given natural sales cycles or some variability in the sales, over time, hopefully that green line is under the black line, and the difference really there is your profit. So what Mike studied and what he realized after all the research that he did was that this is a common pitfall of most businesses. It's when something unexpected happens. It's when the pandemic hits. It's when a big disruptor comes in. It's when somebody comes in that changes the landscape for your business and sales drop more than expected. What he saw is that when that happened, businesses were very slow to reduce their costs to come back in line with their income. So they would operate for a period of time where their costs were exceeding their income. And that here puts you at great risk for going out of business. So relating back to my previous comment and study, if this were to take place and last for a few weeks, that would sink 75% of the small businesses out there. So this is the reason why we take this seriously and why this book is something that we should look at a little further. Over here we have the thesis for Mike's work, and it's a small difference here in how we look at this formula, but it's profound. So instead of looking at profit from basically the difference between sales and expenses, we are going to put profit first. So anything that comes in, the sales that come in, what we're going to first do is set aside profit, and whatever's left are our expenses and costs of doing business. We're not going to hope and pray that there's profit after paying all our expenses. We are going to consider profit first. We are going to pay profit first, and whatever's left is the basis for the operational expenses for running our business. So it's a small shift, but it's a huge change in mindset. The one concept I want to go in further detail today from the book are setting up some fundamental accounts that you will use to run your business. So this is something that I implemented last year, and it is one of the things that has transformed our business the most. And what this allows us to do is basically not fall into temptation of what's called bank account accounting. So bank account accounting, that's a mouthful, is basically where you make decisions based on the balance in your bank account. What's dangerous about that is that there are normal business cycles. So you may have a commission in our business, being in real estate, a commission come in. I may make a bad decision because that commission just came in. I might think we're more flush than we actually are, and I'm not considering all the expenses behind us that have to get paid from that commission. Or on the flip side, I might say no to something that's an investment that's a really good idea because maybe we're expecting a commission soon, but the bank account's at a little lower level than I'm comfortable with. So what we're doing here is when money comes in, it's going to come through a pass-through account. So all the inflows are coming through this income bucket, which are then being passed through to where those dollars are going to live in these other accounts. This really helps us put a name to each dollar that comes in and assigns that dollar a task to serve us in our business. So when that income comes in, the very first transfer we're going to make is into our profit bucket. And this profit bucket is going to be an account that I call a no temptation account. This is an account that is very difficult to get to. In my case, I set up a savings account. I don't have online banking. It's at a bank that I don't really use. It's the only reason I have a relationship with this bank is for these two accounts. So if you have your normal bank, I would suggest you set up this account somewhere else where it's much more difficult to get to. It's kind of out of sight, out of mind, and that profit is there to enjoy after 3 or 6 months. But it's really something that you can't tap into easily. Again, in my case, I have to physically go into this branch to access that money. Now, the third bucket is your owner's compensation bucket. Now, you might be saying, well, why would you separate profit and owner's compensation? Those are the same thing. And they really aren't. So when you're running a business, we really need to separate these two because, again, if you decide as the owner of the business to one day replace yourself in your business running activities, you as the business owner still are due profit if you are still the owner of that business, but you need to earmark the compensation you were paying yourself to pay your replacement. So for example, I run a real estate team. If I was to eventually replace myself as the team lead, I would still own Thornton Realty Group or the Michael Thornton team. I would still be due the profit, but I would have to pay the new team lead compensation for basically running the day-to-day of the business. So let's say I pay myself $100,000 to do that. I would have to pay that replacement theoretically $100,000 to do the same job. Now, let's hope that business is generating a profit over and beyond that $100,000. If I decided to step away one day, that owner's compensation does not go to me, it goes to the replacement, but anything over top of that would still go to me as the business owner. So that's why it's important to separate those two. This is the compensation for running the business, for working in the business, and this is the compensation for owning the business, and this is what would still be due long after I work in my business, assuming I hire a replacement and keep the business going. Fourth is taxes. Unfortunately, we have to have a tax bucket. That is very important. That's another no temptation account. That is at the same bank as I have my profit account. It's very difficult to get to. I don't even want to see that money because if I see it, I think it's mine, and it's not, it's the government's. So that is another no temptation account. And then lastly is the bank account that we're going to operate our business out of. This is a checking account. This obviously is an account that's very liquid that we can easily pay our expenses out of. But this way, we know exactly what these dollars are intended for based on where they live. So when income comes in, right away, I make a deposit into the profit account. That is to enjoy later. I have payroll set up with my CPA, and we pay myself bi-weekly. Even as the business owner, I get paid a salary. I have money that gets transferred to taxes based on what my CPA and I believe will be basically my percent allocation due. And then everything else gets transferred into an operating expenses bucket where I operate the business. Now, over time, if we're doing this well, we should be changing our allocations as we get more and more profitable. So hopefully over time, the percentage that goes to profit goes up, owner's compensation goes up, and operating expenses go down. That's the hope, right? So setting up your allocations is a completely different discussion, but this is a concept that will definitely help you unleash the profit in 2022. Again, just a couple quick concepts. Hope it was helpful. Can't recommend enough the book, and maybe we'll do a follow-up video with a few more concepts from it very soon. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you next time.